I have written another short apologetics book. Short for me is like 128 pages, but it's called The Resurrection of the Jewish Messiah. And I think hopefully we know within apologetics that the resurrection is the central event, or one of the most common ways we defend our faith. You know, it's one of those apologetic topics that comes up a lot. If Jesus rose from the dead, it means the God of the Bible exists. It means history is defined. It shows that God has intervened in history. It unpacks a lot of worldview questions. So the resurrection of Jesus is extremely important when it comes to talking to people about why we think our faith is true, or it plays a role in strengthening our faith in many areas as well. So this little book I wrote called The Resurrection of Jewish Messiah, I wrote because as I began to study a little more about Judaism, which I have a kind of a background in that, I taught on that, I realized that a lot of Christians don't really know much about the relationship between saying Jesus is the Messiah and that he rose from the dead. A lot of times they'll say, well, Jesus is the Son of God. I believe he rose from the dead. Of course he rose from the dead. But we don't really know the background of what we call Jewish messianism, like the study of whether Jesus is the Messiah in relation to Israel. And I thought that I'd unpack some of those things in this book. So I go over a little bit about Jewish thought and the background of Jewish thought with the resurrection in general. And then I talk about whether Jesus is really qualified as the Messiah and how it relates to the resurrection. And then I talk about some of the objections to the resurrection in the back of the book, even some Jewish objections to the resurrection of Jesus. So I hope that it will be informative and that people will be able to fill some gaps of knowledge in, and they will learn some new things versus just basically repeating. Hopefully I haven't just repeated some of the same apologetic arguments that have always been heard. Hopefully this has a little different angle. And remember, there's 4 worldview questions: origins, destiny, purpose, and morality. Those 4 worldview things that Ravi Zacharias talks about. I think that the resurrection unpacks all of those. So hope we'll pick up a copy of this. It's on Amazon.com. You can get it on Kindle or paperback, but it's about 128 pages, and I hope it'll equip you in talking about the resurrection with others.